Dubey sir, now you can start.
Okay.
Unmute.
Good evening, friends. I've taken another video from the same series, Beyond Myths and Tradition. This is on the mirror of relationship. So I'll take a minute to share the screen. Are you able to see it now?
Sir, yes, sir.
Okay.
This time, Krishnamurti addresses the question of relationship. What is our part in this most profound interaction with another? In looking deeply, can we see ourselves and our actions clearly? Alone in your room, you may be perfect, but things become more complex once a spouse, friend, child, fellow citizens, and world neighbors enter that space. In 1985, Krishnamurti said, "As you observe in a mirror your face, you observe your reactions without any distortion. And that can only be done in a relationship with another. Relationship then becomes the mirror in which you can see yourself exactly as you are. Looking in the mirror of relationship."
Life is a movement in relationship. You may meet in bed, but each one is pursuing different lives. That like two parallel lines never meeting. And this is called relationship, in which there is no actual sense of love. So why do human beings so technologically intelligent, such extraordinary capacity and energy, why human beings have not solved this most essential question, problem? You may meditate, you may seek enlightenment, you may follow the latest guru, the latest expression of whatever you are following. But if you have not solved this problem, all your spiritual attainments and technological achievements have no value at all. because our life is relationship. Similarly, if we have not resolved this essential, basic question of relationship, which is at present isolating from each other. This isolation must inevitably breed all kinds of misery, confusion, hatred, anger. So is it possible to have a relationship in which there is no conflict whatsoever? To understand the full meaning of relationship with other, however close, however distant, we must begin to think, we must begin to understand why the brain creates images. I hope we're following each other. Why we have images about ourselves and images of pictures about others. If you have an image as a Swiss or a British or French and so on, do not those images not only distort our observation of humanity, but also do they not separate? And therefore, wherever there is separation, there must be conflict. As there is conflict going on in the Middle East, the Arab against the Israelite, the Muslim against the Hindu, the Christian against the whole rest of the world. Is it possible not to create an image at all? You understand? That is, not to record an incident which may be pleasurable or painful in that particular relationship, not to record either the insult or the flattery, the encouragement or discouragement. Follow? All that is taking place in our daily relationship, is that possible not to record at all? Even of the meeting together. Because if the brain is constantly recording everything that's happening to you, psychologically, then it is never free to be quiet. It can never be tranquil, peaceful. If the machinery is operating all the time, it wears itself out, which is obvious. And this is what happens in our relationship with each other. Is it possible not to create an image about each other? Because that image, the remembrance of things past, which is the image, divides people. It's not only the image, but if I'm ambitious, competing, trying to become chief executive or psychologically something or other, and my wife is also doing something else equally in other directions, how can we have a relationship? You understand that? Apparently, very few of us are free of any form of image. The freedom from image is real freedom. Right? Because then, in that freedom, there is no division brought about by images.
You are my father, and I get understand through my watching you that if I am smart, you will like me. You see, the child you talk about depended on the image that his father loves him. And therefore everything goes when his father doesn't have him. Everything is gone. And therefore his heart. That's right.
Do you impose an image on a child? Because you're bound to, because you have an image.
You're trying to.
Well,
no, you're working at it, and the child picks it up. Or he doesn't pick it up.
Because you have an image about yourself, you're bound to create an image in the child.
That's right.
I said, that's it. You follow, you've discovered.
If the steady process of building an image didn't occur, then there would be no basis, no structure to get hurt. See, that's in other words, the pain is due entirely to some psychological factor, some thought which is attributed to me. You see, saying I am suffering this pain. And whereas I was previously enjoying the pleasure of saying my father loves me and doing what he wants. Now comes the pain. I'm not doing what he wants. He doesn't love me.
So if you're this way, I'm with you. If you're not that way,
but you see, society is doing this to every human being. Churches do it. Churches, religion, politics, everything, culture around us is creating this thing. I'm a Catholic, I'm a Protestant, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Zen monk, I'm this, I'm that. You follow the whole image. If there is an image of that kind, how can you have love in all that?
we don't have an abandonment. So
We don't have it.
See, suppose the parent and child have images of each other.
yeah,
And the relationship is governed by those images. Now, the question is whether that is actually a relationship or not, or whether it's some sort of fantasy of a relationship.
As long as you have an image about yourself, you have no relationship with another.
all we know somehow or other is images.
and image making and
And-
thought. That's all we know.
But we never said, can it stop?
We've never said, can it stop? That's right.
We never said, for God's sake, if it doesn't stop, we're going to destroy each other. The Arab has his image, the Jew, the Hindu, the Muslim, the Christian, the non-communist. It's this tremendous development of image. Symbols, all the rest. If that doesn't stop, you're going to have such a chaotic world.
How can it stop?
Not happen. Then you're entering the question of systems, mechanical process, which is part of our image making. If I tell you how, then you tell me the system, the method, the practice. I'll do it every day, and that I'll get the new.
Yeah.
Now, I see the fact that's going on in the world.
Got it. With you.
Fact, not my reactions, not my romantic, fanciful theories, what you should not do. It's the fact that as long as there are images, there's no going to be peace in the world, no love in the world. Whether the Christ image or the Buddha or the Muslim, there's going to be peace in the world. I see it as a fact. Right? I remember. I have experienced something yesterday that has left a mark. That is knowledge. And with that knowledge, I meet next experience. So the next experience is translated in terms of the old. And therefore, that experience is never new.
So in a way, what, if I understand you correctly, you're saying that the experience that I had yesterday, that I recall,
Recollection.
the recollection upon my meeting something new, that appears to have some relationship to it. I approach on the basis of holding my previous knowledge up as a mirror in which to determine the nature of this new thing that I have confronted.
Right.
Yes. And this could be a rather crazy mirror.
Generally it is. So you see, that's what I mean.
Yes, I follow.
Where is the beginning, or where is freedom in relation to knowledge? Or is freedom something other than the continuity of knowledge?
Must be something other.
Which means there is if one goes into it very, very deeply, it means the ending of knowledge.
Yes.
And what does that mean? What does it mean to end knowledge? Whereas I have lived entirely on knowledge.
Yes.
How am I? You take this very simple fact. You insult me or praise me. That remains a knowledge. With that image, with that knowledge, I meet you. I never meet you. The image meets you.
Exactly.
Therefore, there is no relationship between you and me.
Yes, because between us, this has been interposed.
Obviously.
Yes.
Therefore, how is that image to end? Never to register. You follow?
I can't depend on someone else to end it for me.
Therefore, what am I to do? How am I? How is this mind, which is registering, recording all the time, is the brain function of the brain is to record all the time. How is it to be free of knowledge? Is it when you have done some harm, personally or collective, whatever, you have insulted, you have flattered. How is the brain not to register? If it registers, it's already an image. It's a memory. And the past then meets the present. So, what place has knowledge in human relationship? Knowledge in the sense, past experience, tradition, image.
Yes.
What has the observer, who is the observer, all that is the observer, what place has the observer in human relationship? Has the observer any place at all in the relationship? I say no. The moment he comes into existence, in relationship, there is no relationship.
The relationship is not.
Is not.
It's not something that is in this relationship.
Yeah, that's right.
We're talking about something that in fact does not even exist.
This division is the factor of real violence. Security means permanence. And is there anything in life permanent? So we are seeking in relationship security and permanence. That very concept, and please listen to this with meaning, that very concept of demanding security and permanence is translated as attachment. So there is a deep attachment to another. It may be for a month, for a week, or 50 years. And during the state of attachment, there are all the conflict of jealousy, suspicion, fear, gain and loss. You know this, don't you? Suppose the speaker or you have not this sense of security and permanence. That doesn't mean anything. Suppose. Then what is relationship? Instead, permanency and attachment and all this pain and pleasure and anxiety and fear is not love. And if the absence of that entirely, deeply, profoundly, the other is like a flower that's blooming. You may hold the hand of another, embrace another, walk together, but inwardly you are separate from the other. That's a fact. Do face it. And so there's perpetual conflict between the two. And you can ask, is it possible to live in relationship with another without conflict? Is our relationship based on memory? If it is remembrance, if it is various images, then it's all that is the product of thought. Then one asks, is thought love? To please ask this question of yourself, not that I'm prompting you. Can there be peace between human beings? Whatever their color, their race, their language, their so-called culture. And to find that peace, there must be peace between you and others. Between you, your wife, your children, yourself. Can there be peace? Which means no conflict. Where there is no conflict, there is something far greater than the activity of thought.
Yes, Harshad bhai, please go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Dubeji. This is a very, very important topic of relationship. And our happiness or unhappiness, it depends a lot on the quality of relationship we have with family, with friends, with society, with everything, with nature. And to have a good relationship,
You are muted, Harshad bhai. You have been. Please unmute yourself. You are muted. Unmute yourself.
I have
There is
unmuted you, the host.
lots of disturbance. Yeah.
Yeah, are you able to hear?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Are you able to hear?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I think somebody tried to call me, so I had to decline. So what I'm saying is that our quality of relationship depends on how much clearly we are able to see ourselves. Because generally, when we don't understand ourselves, when we don't see things very clearly, there will be conflict within ourselves, and that it will express in relationship with people. So relationship in relationship we can see clearly. If we do not have good relationship with people, many people around us, then it means that there is something wrong. And one thing which Krishna ji said about relationship is that love in relationship is a process. And without this revelation, relationship has very little significance. So on, this has to be really felt in when we are deeply attached to somebody, and then how that relationship, that attachment creates many problems like fear, anger, jealousy, loneliness. And this can be seen if we are very sensitive. And through this observation of ourselves in relationship, that what we feel, this attachment is not love, pleasure is not love. There cannot be fear and anger when there is no love. When there is love, there cannot be fear and anger. So, are you able to hear? Because I don't have any problem, but it seems that somebody is getting disturbance.
Audio में
Okay,
disturb
I
कर
think I will.
I think
will.
I think Harshad bhai, we have you have problem with your problem with your audio. I think you maybe you log out and then log in again.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So you.
I think it's important that when we relate to a person or to nature or to our own ideas, it's very important to be aware at that moment how we are meeting that. That is very important. Because normally we have an agenda, we justify whatever we are doing. So is it important to observe that meeting point when we are meeting with any person or idea or with money or with our career or whatever? That's another point that I would like people to respond on, because I don't know, biologically, is it possible not to record anything at all? Uh, I can tell you with my own experience that there are occasions where something being said, I take it very lightly, or I have taken it very lightly, or have not noticed it at all if I'm aware, and then it has not created the disturbance. But to stop recording, as Krishji is bringing it up, that stop it completely, is it possible biologically? This is what I would like people to respond. Yes, Dinesh ji.
Are you able to listen to me?
Yes.
My voice is clear, no disturbance, sir?
No, not at all.
In this today's video, Krishnamurti has asked very vital questions. And what I feel personally is everybody individually has to answer, find out the answers for himself. First question, which is very important, as you also asked rightly, why brain creates images per se? Why the brain creates images? In my views, it is a normal function of brain, and without image, it cannot function. It cannot move ahead. So for reference, any reference for movement, it requires the images. Even simple recording of any incidents is through image only. So creating no image, that is not possible. That is what my understanding is. Now, second question, very important. Is it possible for brain not to record any image? So I think that is also not possible, because that is also required for general movement, whether it is a pain or pleasure or any movement, it is essential. If suppose the brain doesn't record any image, then it will go into the criteria of amnesia. So that is also not possible. So brain has to record the image. Now, the third thing, which is very important, he has linked with security and permanency. Yes, there is no permanent security and there is no permanency, absolute permanency. But there is relative security and relative permanency. So for that also, the image creation is very important, because it is, as he said rightly, it is attached to fear, loss, jealousy, gain, etc., etc. So for that also, the image making is essential and important. Now, again, next point. Can we imagine any life without any image? Because that image is covering the whole of your psyche. That is including intellect, emotions, feelings, all that. So is it possible, brain, not to go into this, use these three instruments, feelings, emotions, and intellect? This also one has to see. He says that relation is between knowledge to knowledge. Yes, temporarily all the relations will be having knowledge, and it will be between knowledge to knowledge only. Now, important point is, then what he is trying to say, if he also knows that, because he himself has confirmed that this is a normal function of brain, but what he is trying to say? He is trying to say, in my opinion, in my views, that can we understand the whole structure of image making, why the brain makes an image, this understanding of this, and can we remain free from the whatever the unnecessary images or the images which are creating problem in relationship? Can one be free from it? Yes, the answer is yes. But that this yes is very much what I can say. It is very much. It requires a great demand from you. What is that? This requires basically a maturity, a level of maturity of understanding the whole structure of image making. Number two, it requires morality, because if you can't expect such thing from any terrorist or any killer or any bad man in the society. So this requires morality also, maturity also, and apart from that, surrender of I. Am I surrender of I or freedom from I? There are two things: surrender of I or freedom of I. Am I understanding the whole issue? Am I understanding the whole structure? And am I ready to give up the small issues? Because we are seeing in the society there is a difference between what we in Hindi say clever. A person may be clever, but he may not be having the right understanding. So समझदारी और होशियारी, आजकल समाज में होशियारी बहुत ज्यादा देखने को मिल रही है और समझदारी देखने को नहीं मिल रही है. लोग बल्कि ज्यादा समझदार, ज्यादा होशियार हो रहे हैं, जिसको कह सकते हैं कि हमारे इंदौरी भाषा में कहते हैं चतरे हो रहे हैं. So people are becoming more and more clever, but they are not having a right understanding, or they are not having the clear concepts, their concept, what is life basically, and what is the structure of this whole. So one has to understand this whole image making issue, structure of that, and then only he can move ahead. That's what I think. Thank you. What do?
Thank you, Dinesh. I think you said quite a few things, and some of them quite contradictory to each other. I just want to point out that, the brain is used to forming images in the external world, and it's very helpful. It's very helpful in our daily living. And it projects the same thing in the internal world, in the psychological world. And you said it's impossible not to make images in the psychological world, in the internal world. I think such a strong statement is not right, because when you say it is impossible, then one will not make any effort to examine it, because you have already decided that nothing can be done. And then you also said it's possible to do it by understanding. What is that understanding you are talking about? I'll give an example. When you love somebody, say a small child, do you make images when he is harsh with you? So I think taking such a strong categorical statement is not the right thing. I think there should be a sense of doubt. That is the way we inquire into these statements. And people say that what Krishnaji says, you have to look in between the lines, not exactly what he's saying, because there are lots of things which are hidden in what he's talking about. So I don't want an answer from you. I just mentioned my comments. We can hear you later, maybe. Let's hear somebody else.
May I say something?
Yes, please.
Are you able to hear clearly?
Yes, we can now, yes.
Okay. So what Krishnaji is saying is that how do we look at a tree or a human being, and he's asking whether it is possible to see without thinking. And when it really happens in the life of a human being, then that person will know that there is a different way of looking at a tree or a human being. And even though, are you able to hear?
Yes, we can.
Because from the expression on your face, it seems that you are getting some disturb.
No, there's no disturbance right now.
Yeah. Okay, right. So only when such a thing happens, when a person is able to look at a human being fresh, even though the person knows the name and he knows where all the information, knowledge is stored there, but that knowledge does not interfere when you look at the person or a tree. And in that there is real beauty and there is real love. When two people can look at each other like that without images, then there is a real relationship. And that is the way I felt when I first met Krishnamurti in Ohio in 1977. And it was completely non-verbal and just looking at each other and extending hand and meeting. So only when such a thing happens that we know that there is a possibility of looking at everything, at human beings, at everything fresh. It's like you are looking for the first time. When you look at a kangaroo, how it is jumping for the first time, you see the real strangeness of it. So similarly, we can look at the flower, tree, human beings every day. And we cannot decide to look at that way, but it can happen when we are very, very curious in looking at our problems, and when there is a freedom from all that attachment, jealousy, fear, loneliness in relationship, then there is a possibility of looking uh, with newness, freshness. And that is what Krishnamurti calls as a real relationship, where we don't bring in previous knowledge and not even looking at Krishnamurti as if he is somebody great. Because there was one carpenter in Rishi Valley, and when he came to know that Krishnamurti is great human being, and when he went to meet Krishnamurti, he began to look at Krishnamurti as if he was great, and Krishnamurti did not talk with him. But before knowing that Krishnamurti was great, Krishnamurti had a good time uh, talking with this man and helping each other, lifting furniture and all that. So when we know somebody through the image, then that is some very stale. There is no freshness in it. That is what Krishnamurti is saying. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Dakshina Murthy. Yes.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening.
This is a very important topic, and Krishnaji has stated that life is relationship, and without relationship, in isolation, nothing can survive. So this topic is most important for all of us to understand. Uh, about Dinesh Waghmare's question about image making, I would like to say one or two points that may throw some light on that. For example, in every experience, there are two components. One is the information and knowledge component. That is what, where, how, why, who, all those things. Other one is the psychological component. The psychological component is like various attributes you give to the other person when you talk to him. He's a good man, he's a bad man, he's a very uh, self-centered person, like that various comments we make. And this psychological component is the factor that creates all the problems. The information and knowledge part is very important for us, because without that knowledge and information, we cannot proceed in life. For example, a new person is introduced to me 2 days back, a friend, a common friend has introduced, and after 2 days I meet him today, and if I am not able to recognize him, it becomes difficult. Every time I have to introduce him, he has to introduce to me, or I have to introduce myself to him. So that knowledge and information part is well recognized, and it is needed also to have a reasonably smooth life. But the other part, the psychological part, like he is a very noisy person, he is a very self-centered person, various things we have. Likewise, the praise and the insult he has given to me, as like calling me a fool or whatever, all those things, if they are recorded, that create the problem. To further purpose, we have got to be present in the moment when the incident is happening, and we have to test it out for ourselves, particularly in the family, when the wife or the husband is talking about anything and calling some names. Can we listen attentively in that state with full attention, which means a complete listening? And you can realize that the insult is not recorded. Likewise, the flattery is also not recorded. So this is a thing one has to apply in his day-to-day living, because life is relationship, and the relationship is there with the people around me. I must recognize that and also try to work on this factor. Then there is a possibility of the psychological factors not being recorded. That's all from my side, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Prasad sir, please unmute yourself.
Sir, this video is very important because it deals with our daily living and with our daily contacts. I don't have, I could understand the video only half of it, the first half of it. The later half, when it comes to discussion with the bomb and others, that part I really couldn't follow its significance. But the first part I think is quite important because, you know, what impressed me is Krishnaji bringing down, you know, matters from high heavens to our normal planetary earth. Because he says, you may meditate or you may seek enlightenment and all that, but that will have very limited significance unless your normal relationships are good. And as all of you have said, as Harshad particularly has said, your happiness depends on your relationship with people, with the nature, and with even ideas. So our happiness depends on relationships, and it is the unique contribution of Krishnaji to say that, you know, you can see yourself only in the mirror of relationships. You may sit in your car, in a corner in your room, AC room, and you may think you're a wonderful guy and all that. But when it comes to your relationships with your neighbors, with your bosses, with your servants and all that, that is what really is material and not your seeking God or all those big things. So, and then he says images. Why do we have images? We have images about others, and more importantly, we have images about ourselves. I think I am a very big man, or I am a genius and all that. We have images about ourselves, which are really more poisonous than images about others. So, and I think I raised this question earlier also, and Dubey Sahab has answered it. That is, how can we manage without images at all? Didn't he have images about Professor Krishna? Otherwise, how did he select him and all that? So, I mean, as a government servant, I was subject to the assessment of my bosses. And I also had to give my assessment of my subordinates. Every time I had to give my assessment of my subordinates, I was wondering. I mean, it is said in Christianity, don't judge others, lest you be judged. But here we were judging others. And not only that, you give your judgment about certain matters. And I was wondering, what right do we have to judge all these things? Really, do we really know the truth about it? Do I know that Mr. Dubey has to pay so much tax? How do I know? So we have to live in the practical world and we have to discharge our duties. The only thing is we must realize that our images are influencing our decisions. The images we have about others and the images we have about ourselves, they are influencing our decisions. And when you have that awareness and you bring that awareness to bear upon decision making, the quality of the decision making of the decisions will be much, much better. I think that is about all, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Prasad. Thank you. Yes, Verma sir, please unmute yourself.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you
are. Audible. Okay, thank you. Today's topic is, of course, very, very important. One knows himself or herself in relationship. That is the main relationship. But self is the past made up of earlier such relations with things, people, and life in general in specific times and space. And the time is fluid. Time is fluid. You can't say that here the past goes and the present, what meets what. So that is one thing in my mind. Then self, as Dubeyji very rightly said, self-knowing is possible in timeless present, only through awareness, not to be recalled as it passes fast. Then in this video, beautiful video, wonderful video, that fragmentation invariably creates conflict. Where do I feel conflict? In my psyche, indicating something unnatural has happened. Something unnatural has happened, then one should become attentive. Then only self-knowing is possible, otherwise it immediately becomes knowledge. A lovely video, I congratulate Mendiza for his beautiful photography. A lovely sermon in the background, beautiful maple leaves in misty environment, and so soft piano music. Speaks in silence, feeling myself in unbound happiness. This is relationship. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Verma sir. You can thank Mendiza in person because he'll be speaking to us this coming Sunday.
That's right. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Dinesh ji.
Sir, what I wanted to say at that time also, and I would further clarify, there are two things. One is you are making image. So that can you avoid making images? Can brain avoid making images? Answer is no. But what you are registering, what you are putting in your memory, that one can reassess, and why he wants to register hurt or flattery or such emotions. So there are two things, and this distinction or this difference one has to understand. And another thing, what he has asked, JK, first is registering of such incidences, which becomes past, and then next time it interferes in your any transaction. But he has gone one step ahead. Of course, in this video it is not mentioned, but he has gone one step ahead, and he has asked One has to be aware from moment to moment in any relationship or one's reactions. What reaction is arising? And he said that no reaction is revolution. So what does he mean by that? One has to very much aware about his reactions, whether it is what reaction is arising like fear or any superiority complex or inferiority complex or whatever it is. So one has to be aware, and one has, if he is aware, then probably there may not be any registering of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Shakti ji, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, my voice is reaching, sir.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. This about relationship. Once I was reading something of Krishnamurti, and one phrase, it remained with me. Be committed to attention in relationship. He was talking about authority. Suddenly he said that how to be committed to attention, to be attentive in relationship. So this I found something very important, because usually we are selectively attentive in relationship. Only the relationship with people, but with relationship with ideas, relationship with our own thoughts. So this message of, as Dinesh ji says, that if there is awareness, then there is that possibility of not registering the insult or flattery. And so these things are to be experimented. Only one thing I can share with you, that it seems that if we are not unaware during an event of pleasant or unpleasant happenings, then perhaps the event we can recall, but the sting of that event or the gush of that event, they don't last much. I don't remember the the sting of that somebody has said me something, so that is possible, I think. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shakti ji. Thank you.
May I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Yes. About this mirror, there is a beautiful song. It reminds me, Tora man darpan kehlaye. Your mind, it shows everything. So this relationship has to do with the quality of the mind. And when the mind, there's a light in the mind, everything looks very beautiful, bright and beautiful. And we can escape from the world, but we cannot escape from our mind. And so we have to really see it clearly, how our mind works. And so, and he says, mind, there is nothing beyond the mind. Man hi devta, man hi Ishwar, man se bada na koi. So all these simple songs, it tells us that it is very, very to look inward, which arises within and with people. And then there's a possibility, the the quality of our mind determines the quality of happiness and the health which we have. So we cannot escape from the world. We cannot escape from our mind. We cannot go to some isolated place and meditate, because once we come back, we will have to work with people and work with our mind. So a beautiful song. Maybe difficult without images. That may be difficult, but to see clearly, that is very easy to without thinking, without knowledge. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Harshad bhai, there is some problem with your audio. It's making lots of disturbance. Some problem.
Oh, okay, I don't know. I do. Oh, okay, okay, sorry.
Anand ji, you want to say something? I think Arun ji has raised hand. Yes, please unmute yourself, Mr. Arun Partha.
Yeah, hello. Good evening, everyone. Sir, actually, one thing which came into my mind is like in a relationship, no, I think the naming as such plays a very important factor. That is when we say father, mother, brother, sister, or anything, what happens is immediately we have an image about our father itself, which we would have built up from our childhood. But later on in different stages of our life, sir, sound is.
I think
Yeah.
Harshad bhai's mic
Harshad,
is.
sir. Harshad, yeah. So later on, what happens is in our life, in my life itself, what I've observed is like, you might have built a image about your father, but actually over a period of time, he also goes through the same struggles and conflicts in his life. And then he also, I mean, what happened, he has his health issues and he comes down and all that. So when we really look at them, no, at a particular different time, we ourselves have a that image conflict. We have seen some person as X, and then we suddenly see them in a different state. We feel very miserable because you might have idolized him and all that. But at the same time, as Krishna ji mentions, I feel that any relationship, no, it helps us to, it triggers us to find some deep rooted emotions or conditioning, etc., of ourselves. So I feel in any relationship, whether it's father, mother, friends, and all that, we are actually helping one another in some way, where we ourselves are not aware of it. Because if you look at it, why is it that otherwise we make relationship only with certain people, not with everyone? I don't meet everybody in this world. There are so much of crores of people, but I tend to make myself having a relationship, build a relationship only with certain people. Or certain people only come into your life. So I think what happens is there itself, no, we are helping one another in our lifetime itself, where our self wants to, there is a learning for ourself itself from another, like, so that there is maybe self-knowledge or something, I don't know about it, but somewhere we are related to one another, and we should look at that into a deeper level, which I think Krishna ji is very pointing to. And what we do is we talk only about the relationship which we have with people as such, but generally if you look at it, the more very natural relationship which we have is with the nature as such, because in most of the relationship what we do is we tend to, it's a give and take policy nowadays. You give me something, I take something. But whereas when it comes to nature as such, there is nothing like give and take. It's just like that is there, you're there, like, that I think is something which we can learn from nature. And I doubt if nature wasn't there in this world as such, only human beings we would have been there, then it would have been really miserable. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Arun. I think we should also examine our relationship with ourselves. That is also very important. Yes, Dinesh ji, you want to say something more?
Yes, sir. I also wanted to point out that in this video, Krishnamurti has raised a very valid point. Why at all this issue of relationship is there? It is because of individuality. Every person is unique and individual. So as long as individuality is there, this issue will be there. He has also pointed out somewhere else that to live and not to be related is an absurd thing. He has also pointed out that to remain in relationship, and one has to be infinitely pliable, infinitely flexible, and that is an arduous task. So one has to remember all these things and go ahead with this. So this clarity should be there. Because the individuality is there, this relationship automatically because of this individuality, automatically division is created, and as long as division is there, relationship issues will be there. Thank you.
Yes, Kamlesh ji.
Are you able to listen to me, sir?
Yes.
Yes. Sir, interference due to the images. That is the interference due to the image that should be seen in a very detailed view by one who wants to learn about himself. Because as JK has said that one can learn about oneself in relationship only. And whole of the life is relationship. So if one wants and if he is required to go into detail about himself, he can watch his own reactions and all that in relationship. So first stage is to understand how the images are interfering. And if then at all possible, then one can consider or experiment that all the image making process can be ended or stopped. If one is very passively aware in relationship, then it is clearly reflected that what images are formed in one due to his demand from the other. Either someone is hurting him or someone is making pleasantries or flattering him. Those both things engrandify the self. They make the self more predominant. So to be in a position to watch the self, watch oneself in the mirror of relationship, as JK has said, one has to be very keenly aware of his self-knowledge and what is coming into his self-knowing in the moment itself and how is related with the thing. Then it is possible to be free of the image as it is coming in the present now. That is what I want to say.
Thank you, Kamlesh ji. Yes, Anand ji.
Yes, sir. So, earlier I heard, about nature. The universe is part of nature. So without nature, we are not there, or the living thing is not there. So that is very essential for us to understand. And another thing, sir, many a times we don't recall what happens in our life. There are many things because we don't give importance to it. The moment I give importance, I tend to remember it. When I depend upon somebody, I want something out of that person. If there is something I can get or something I want to give, it's only then I remember. Otherwise, many things in day to day we forget a lot of things. So when somebody said, Krishnamurti forgot that, that palace which was given to him and he gave it back to some society, he didn't remember about it because he didn't give importance to it. So we have to understand, because what Krishnamurti is saying and what I understand are two different things. That is the interpretation. Most of us all the time we are interpreting. Krishnamurti is saying something, it's very simple, but our minds are complicated. We cannot understand anything that is simple because my mind is complicated. And that is what I've been conditioned to from the time I've been born. They give you problems and you have to solve it. So without that, I feel, I'm lost. So anything simple, it's going to be difficult for me to understand. So again, when I talk about relationships, sir, it's a very, very petty thing when I talk about me and my family or me and the human beings. Life is relationship. We need to understand that. Just because I can have good relationship with my family, it doesn't mean anything at all. And Krishnamurti also said, he looked at it holistically, which I need to look at it also. Each and every living thing and non-living thing it's what the relationship is all about. So as long as I don't have relationship with that, he says you cannot have relationship with humanity. So how do I understand this? All the time we are talking about ourselves, only the human beings. So he has made it very clear. He says, when you don't love nature, then you can't love anything else. Nature is you. That is what he says, and we are destroying it. So, being Krishnamurti readers, seems to be, for me, it's very, very surprising. Krishnamurti, in fact, in every talk of his, he has mentioned, we are destroying it. We are wiping out the species of the species. But we haven't so far ever heard in any one of these meetings talking about this. We only talk about my own happiness, my own joy, how I should understand Krishnamurti, how I should become enlightened, how I should have insight, and all those things. I never look at it what he really means by relationship. When he talks about mirror relationship, when you look into yourself, which acts as your mirror, you are looking into it. It's everything, which includes every living and non-living things on this planet. I can't keep destroying that and I build relationships somewhere else. One has to seriously look at it, sir. Thank you, sir. Over.
Thank you. Thank you. Dinesh, if you have something new to say, we can hear. Otherwise, there is no point. You want to say something which you have not said earlier? Okay.
Yes, sir. One has to also
Fresh.
Thank you for giving me time. Thank you for here in this video, he has also raised one important point that this relationship is getting developed into the concept of attachment. So it is not simply relationship, but the consequences are also very serious of non-understanding or ignorance of the relationship. Thank you.
I want to correct you here. Relationship doesn't get developed into attachment. You can see your attachment in relationship.
Yes, yes. Right.
Since we have no comments, Jan Saab, we can close now. What do you say?
No problem. We are here to establish uniqueness.
I think we'll have the last word from Verma Saab. Verma Saab wants to say something. Yes, sir.
Just a thing, because invariably and very casually, as if it is so normal, why do you register it? Very beautifully, and this you has a tremendous diversity. You is different, each you is so different. And we say, why do you register it? As if you have a control. And we say that you in awareness, even in awareness, choiceless awareness has nothing to say. Everything is good to him. But when you think in awareness, you know when to register, when not to register, discriminatory intelligence. So this question is still there in my mind. Why don't you, why do you record it? And that is the self-image at the back that gets hurt in any condition, only that image can, but so much obsessed he is with himself, he can't see it. So saying simply, why do you register? It has been a futile thing for me. I think I don't know whether it's possible. Thank you for giving me time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes,
please
Prasad,
now
sir.
Michael Mendija's lecture, subject of the Michael Mendija's lecture.
Jan Saab, there are two questions more coming, so please let's hear that. Prasad sir and then Shakti ji, and then we'll close. Yes.
Okay.
Prasad sir.
Sir, the only comment is the images are mostly useless and they clutter the brain. That is why Krishnaji said, when you are free of these images, that is real freedom. Because whatever is required has to be registered. But why do we register everything? Supposing you have called me a fool, why should I register it? There is no harm if I just leave it unregistered. On the other hand, if you say, tomorrow we are having a meeting at 5 o'clock, 5 p.m., I must register that obviously, because that has a functional utility. What has no functional utility need not be registered. Because of that, the brain is getting cluttered, and that is getting registered in our constant chartering. Chartering brain results from constant registering. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I think the moment we are aware of what is happening in the outside world, that awareness, I don't know whether registration can be stopped, but that statement which is made by somebody else or hear something doesn't create that great problem in our relationship, because you hold that registration very lightly. You don't hold it so tight that it affects your relationship. So that awareness is very, very important. And I really don't know whether biologically it is possible not to register at all, because we have made that way. Even while we are sleeping, we register sound and noise and all that. So perhaps we are made that way. Yes, Shakti ji, and then Verma Sahab once again.
I just wanted to say that, when Krishnamurti says, why do you register? The message that I get is that why are you inattentive in relationship? Perhaps.
Yes, Verma Sahab.
My thinking, I'm responding to what Prasad ji was talking about. To me, if certain images are cluttering, are creating problem in you, they are related to you.
There is that when there is inattention, let me finish, sir.
Vermaji, please let Shakti ji finish
let me finish the sentence, sir.
Please.
Yeah. So that means that in the state of inattention, we lose this faculty of what to register and what not to register. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Verma ji, please.
I was just responding to what, because all the images are useless or whatever it is, so many images are there. But if the images are cluttering you, it means they are related to you in one way or the other. That's why you have unknowingly picked all those things. Probably unknowingly, I'm saying, because at times those things, you are not very clear why this image has come to me and why it is troubling me. So it's not that cluttering is done only through me only when I pick up good space to that in me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Rosab. I think
Would
we
you
have
please announce the lecture now?
Yes.
Topic and
next Sunday we will have Mr. Michael Mendiza, and the time is 10 a.m. So kindly note the difference in time. We have adjusted it to suit his timing because it will be about 9 p.m. a day earlier in Ohio. So 10 a.m. next Sunday, that is 4th. And his theme is, as Krishna used to say, so damn simple. That's what he's going to do.
Just I wanted to add, what is what you are.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, thank you. Good night. See you next Sunday.
Yes.
Thanks all.